Hey everyone, this is D-Vyne. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share this video. We have a lot to talk about today, so let's get into it. Jay Holiday came to our attention in 2007 with the release of his debut album, Back of My Lack. His breakthrough hit single, Bed, topped the charts, followed by another major hit single called Suffocate. He's worked with some of the most talented producers in the game and produced quality music, which led to him receiving a Grammy Award nomination. He had the potential to be an R&B superstar, but then he fell right off the charts, and after several career disappointments, he soon took a hiatus that had fans wondering what really happened. Jay Holiday was born Nahum Thornton Grimes on November 29, 1984 in Washington, D.C. He was raised by his mother, Frances Grimes, after his father, who was of Eritrean descent, died when he was just 11 years old. His father's passing shocked the entire family. He had kept his terminal illness a secret from everyone in the family, including his own wife. Jay's mother tried to raise him in the best way possible as a newly single mother. She regularly attended church where she would preach God's word and sing in the gospel choir. Back then, his older sister provided backing vocals for singer Crystal Waters. So, from as long as he could remember, music was an important part of his life. At around 9 or 10 years old, his older male cousins convinced him to sing to girls passing by on the street. Even at that young age, they recognized his talent and tried to benefit from it. Although he later realized that they were just using him to get girls, he appreciated those moments because they gave him the chance to develop his vocal talent. After his father's passing, his family struggled to adjust to the sudden void in their lives. They moved several times around the DC area, and within the space of just 4 years, he was enrolled in 3 different high schools. He often blamed his father for the difficulties that he and his mother faced during this time. The family wasn't prepared for it, but it was a painful reality that they had to get used to. He started hanging out in the streets, trying to make sense of all the changes that were happening in his life at that age. He didn't have the influence of a father anymore, and as much as he loved his mother, she was very involved in the church, so he couldn't turn to her either. He had to figure out a lot of it by himself, but he did find support from older men within his community who helped him to stay on the straight and narrow. They mentored him and helped him to stay out of trouble. Instead, he focused on his education and he started singing in the school choir. He also performed in several school talent shows. It was during this time that he developed a great love for singing. While preparing for these talent shows, he discovered artists like Marvin Gaye, Al Green, and Donny Hathaway. But he also enjoyed the work of newer musical influences like Jodeci, Boyz II Men, Tupac, and Outkast. While listening to all these great musicians, he realized that this is what he wanted to do for the rest of his life. However, his mother saw the value in formal education and ensured that he focused on his studies up until he graduated from high school. Once he was done, he immediately started recording demo tapes. In the early 2000s, he met Corey Green, and they put together a trio called 295, which was named after a major thoroughfare that links Washington, D.C. and Baltimore, Maryland. They started performing between cities, and Corey, their manager at the time, would send their demos to different music execs. He sent a demo to Anthony Tate, founder and A&R of Music Line Group. Tate was impressed and flew to DC to meet the group. After Grimes graduated from high school, Tate immediately moved them out to Atlanta, where he was based. They got signed to Show Enough Records, Jazzy Faye's label, but at the time the label was focusing on their other more established artist, namely Sierra, so 295 was put on the back burner. This frustrated Grimes as he was tired of waiting for his career to take off. He was also tired of being a member of the group as he felt he was doing most of the work. They met with LA Reid in an attempt to secure a record deal, but it fell through. The group was due to record new music, and so that seemed like the perfect time to just separate and start doing his own thing. The group disbanded in 2003. Grimes realized that he would do a lot better as a solo artist, so this move made a lot of sense to him. He soon recorded a solo demo, and this brought him to the attention of music execs at Capitol Records, who signed him in 2006. That same year, he released his first single, Be With Me, which was co-written by Jay. His debut album, Back of My Lack, was scheduled to be released in early 2007 following the release of the first single, but the single did not perform well commercially. It peaked at number 83 on the R&B hip hop songs charts and failed to chart on the Billboard Hot 100. Behind the scenes, there were further delays. Capitol Records was in the process of merging with Virgin Records, so the single wasn't getting the promotion that it needed to really take off. Jay knew that he needed something special to turn the tide after this initial failure. He was told that producer The Dream had written a song that might be a game changer for him. However, singer Chris Brown was also interested in the song, so Jay knew he had to act fast. He recorded the song right away and made a significant payment to The Dream to secure the track for himself. Now, when Chris Brown found out, he was livid, as he thought it was already established that the song was his. But this was no sweat off the producer's back. He explained in an interview that Jay had already recorded the song and paid for it in full, so it was his. His initiative and quick action paid off big time. The track, called Bed, was co-written by The Dream and producer Los the Maestro. It became Jay's first top 10 hit, staying at number 1 on the R&B hip hop songs charts for 5 weeks in a row and peaking at number 5 on the Billboard Hot 100. And really, whenever Jay Holiday comes to mind, Bed is the first song that pops up, so it really made an impact on the charts and with the public. In October 2007, he finally dropped his debut album, Back of My Lack, which debuted at number 5 on the US Billboard 200 chart and went straight to number 1 on the top R&B hip-hop albums chart. His third single, Suffocate, gave him his second top 10 hit, peaking at number 2 on the R&B hip-hop songs chart. It was also co-written by The Dream. He released a fourth single called Come Here, but that was ultimately cancelled. The album received several nominations, including Best Contemporary R&B Album at the 51st Grammy Awards, but Mary J. Blige took that one for her album Growing Pains. It's safe to say that Jay's name was out there and people were liking what he was putting out as well. Besides the Grammy nom, he was also invited to go on tour with R. Kelly on his Double Up tour, which also featured Keisha Cole and Neo, but it wasn't long before people started stirring up trouble behind the scenes. Neo announced that he had dropped out of the tour. According to Neo, fans were more impressed with his set than R. Kelly's, and he had an issue with that. Of course, R. Kelly's team denied these claims and stated that it was just a contractual disagreement. Furthermore, in response to Neo's claims, Kelly's team stated that he was confident in his abilities to be happy to share the stage with enormously talented people. Jay didn't let all the drama prevent him from going on tour and doing his own thing. Once the tour ended, he went right back to work on new music. After the success of his debut album, he knew he needed to continue riding that wave with his sophomore album. In March 2009, he released Round 2, which debuted at number 4 on the Billboard 200 and peaked at number 2 on the top R&B hip-hop albums chart. There was only one single called It's Yours, which performed fairly well, peaking at number 25 on the R&B hip-hop songs chart. There were plans to release a second single called Fall, but there were problems with his record label, and similar to the situation with Come Here from his debut album, this single was also cancelled. Jay felt that Capitol didn't make any real effort to promote his sophomore album. Although he had gone along with some changes they had decided to make for his sophomore album, he had started to speak out more about what he thought. They didn't like his attitude and how outspoken he had become, so they started limiting his funding and refused to promote the album. He ended up having to pay for his album photo shoot in the Dominican Republic. When Round 2 was released, it sold only 55,000 copies in the first week, which was a far cry from his debut album sales. After they fought him on the release of his third album, he parted ways with them. He was quickly signed to Def Jam in 2010, and by 2011 he dropped his mixtape MIA The Lost Pages, which was a teaser for his upcoming album. But things quickly soured between him and Def Jam, and the following year he left the label as well. In May 2012, he independently released the single Sign My Name, a very sexy and suggestive teaser that had fans anticipating the release of his third album. He finally revealed the name of the album, Guilty Conscience, in 2013 and announced that it would be released later that year, but it was delayed until January of the following year. It was independently released through his own label, Holiday Music Group, or HMG. At this point, he was tired of being pushed around by these big labels, and he just decided to do his own thing. This allowed him to have complete creative control over his work. The album received positive reviews from critics, but it failed to produce any top 10 hits, peaking at number 42 on the R&B hip-hop charts. After all this conflict and pushback from within the industry, Jay was at an all-time low. He felt that he needed a long break from the music music industry to recover, so he kind of just fell out the map for a few years. There was no real mention of him until around 2017 when Kanye held the Yeezy Season 5 fashion show. As his models strutted down the runway, he played the Dream's demo version of Jay's hit single, Bed. And of course, Jay was offended by this, wondering why not just play his version. But Jay later went on to say that the Kardashian family has always been supportive of his music, so it was no big deal. I was kind of thrown off by this comment because I'm not sure what Kardashian support has to do with Kanye's perceived snub of Jay. He's the mastermind behind the Yeezy series, and it's not like he's a Kardashian himself. He just dated and married one. Since the release of Guilty Conscience, Jay Holiday hasn't dropped any other albums. October 28th, he released a single, 25 to Life, and announced that he was working on his fourth album, which would be called Time. The album has yet to be released. He dropped another single, Feel Like, in 2019, followed by an announcement that he would be going on the Underrated Part 1 tour starting in August of that same year. In the past few years, although he hasn't dropped the album yet, but occasionally his name has popped up in the media, but usually for all the wrong reasons. It seems he has developed quite a lot of bitterness over the years because of his bad experiences in the industry. In 2018, for example, after the Grammys announced their nominees for each category, Jay went on a rant on his Instagram account expressing disgust at some of the nominees. He was upset that there were not enough male nominees included, even though there were quite a few. But then he specifically went at artists like Beyonce, Cardi B, and SZA, harshly criticizing their brand of music.
So apparently, man, the black men still losing to the women. I get it. We don't swing our around. We don't do all this bullshit to be seen. I could be that over here niggas up. I know a whole bunch of little ass that sing that I could call their ass the out, but I don't. And understand this. I got daughters, man. Cardi, Beyonce, SZA, all y'all motherfuckers. Stop using that pain to make it okay to say some bullshit on your record and get nominated for a Grammy for going through some bullshit, cause so have I.
He also brought up his Grammy loss to Mary J. Blige from well over 10 years ago in the caption for the post. Look, if this man is still holding on to bad feelings about a Grammy nomination from over 10 years ago, then he has a lot of healing to do, cause this ain't it. Even after he was confronted about it by fans of the artist he targeted, he held firm to his previous statements in another post he made. Although he did kind of apologize to Mary J. Blige for dragging her into the discussion, it seems like he has a lot of work to do. And I know this ain't the same man that sang After We Fuck or Bed. Obviously his music is not as explicit as some of the songs out there now, but that is still not a good example for his daughters either. Entertainers should not be held responsible for how you raise your children. A part of your job as a parent is to teach your children and to also be aware of what they are exposed to while under your supervision. And you can't always control what they're exposed to outside of that. Cardi B, SZA, and Beyonce are not known as child-friendly performers. Even though children somehow consume that music, it isn't meant for them. It is meant for an adult audience. How are you going to criticize these women for expressing themselves and addressing their pain in their music when that is literally what many artists do, including Jay himself? Additionally, there are many male artists with filthy, derogatory lyrics and imagery in their music videos, and I didn't hear him calling them out for how their lyrics might affect children. I get that he's frustrated and hurt, but lashing out at other people like this won't fix his problems. The fact that he even brought up the Grammys from over 10 years ago shows what this is really about. There was another pretty embarrassing incident where he was recording an Instagram video outside, joining in on a debate that was going on about who was the current king of R&B. While listing out his top 3, he was approached by a woman who mistook him for the valet. He got smug about it, responding that he couldn't be the valet since he was wearing a Gucci jacket.
There's 3 kings of R&B. The first one sold 20 million on his first album.
Are you valet?
I'm not valet, baby. Not with a Gucci jacket on. I'm not valet, baby.
Emotional, damn it.
Now, I doubt the woman meant anything by it. It was dark, and let's be honest, Jay hasn't really been relevant for a long time in the music industry, so it's not like many people are gonna be easily recognizing him at night out in the streets. He could have just kept it classy and kept it moving, but maybe the fact that he was recording made him feel like he had to try and show her up because he was embarrassed. Of course, this just gave the internet something else to make fun of him about. So at this point, I honestly don't think he's as concerned about other male artists and their careers as he is pressed about the current state of his. I'm curious to know what you guys think, so drop a comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe and share this video. Until next time.